Very happy Makar Sankranti. It's a very auspicious day, and especially in India, this is very wonderfully celebrated. One of the most awaited festivals in the beginning of the year. So today I thought let's discuss some points regarding the importance of Makara Sankranti. So shall we begin the session? Are you ready? There are some 5 important topics to be discussed today. So I'll briefly explain some of the events which happened today and why is it considered very important. Okay. So if you're ready, please type yes in the chat box. Okay, Rajesh Iyengar says yes. Okay, thank you. Nishchal says yes. So I'll start with a short prayer. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Actually, there are many festivals in India which we generally celebrate. Some of them are celebrated very gorgeously. But nowadays what happens, only the ritual remains, but the spirit is lost. They just do the celebration just for the sake of doing. Like on Makar Sankranti, generally people like to eat sweets and exchange sweets and fly kites. So that is a ritual. But why and what is the significance, that is lost. So that's why some people over a period of time, they feel, why should we celebrate these festivals? Better do some party. But actually, when you understand the spirit behind any festival, then it's called as spiritual. So ritual means some set of activities. The spirit, if when you add to it, it becomes spiritual. So the spirit means what? Why? Ritual is what? What you do is called ritual. And the spirit which is associated with it, that's called as the mood, why we do. So that's why we should know why we do anything what we do in this world. And Deepa, like for example, Dasara is the day when Ravana was killed. Diwali is the day when Lord Ram arrived in Ayodhya. So that is the significance, and that is celebrated in a particular way by lighting lamps on the occasion of Diwali, or burning the effigy of Ravana. Then they make tall, big effigy of Ravana, and then they put fire, and then they enjoy the burning. Actually, what it signifies that let the evil in this world die off and the good be established. Let there be victory of the good over evil. So Ravana represents evil. And there is another festival, Diwali, where we invite Lord Ram into our hearts by lighting the lamp in our home and in our verandas. So that's called as just a minute. And then there is another festival, Makara Sankranti, which comes in January. Generally, it comes on 14th or 15th of January. So what is Sankranti? Sankranti is nothing but Sankramana. Sankramana is to move. That's called Sankramana. And what is the movement of? The movement is of the sun. The sun is moving. Generally, we say the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It goes on and on. But along with the moon, there are several stars which are also moving along with the sun. So the sun is moving, and along with that, the stars are also moving, but they are moving at a different speed. So that the movement of the stars around the earth, that's called as Kala Chakra, according to Vedic system. So this Kala Chakra keeps moving, and at a particular time, particular group of stars are at a particular location. Okay, they are called as constellations or Rashi. Rashi means a group of stars which are together. So the Rashis, they keep moving around the sun, around the earth, and sun also keeps moving around the earth. And relative to the Rashis, the sun moves at a different speed So the sun at a particular time is in different rashis. Then there are 12 rashis. So the sun keeps on moving in the different rashis. And whenever the sun moves from one rashi to another rashi, that's called as Sankranti. Okay. And when the sun especially moves into Makara Rashi, that's called as Makara Sankranti. I've just made some photo here. I'll just show you the photo, which makes it clear to you. So basically, 5 points we'll discuss. What is Sankranti? What is Uttarayana? Because today is the day when Uttarayana begins. Ganga Sagar Mela. Bhishma Dev's disappearance happened on this day, and Lord Chaitanya took sannyas on this day. These are the main events which happened today. So these are the different rashis. They're across in the they're called as Kala Chakra, the group of stars, constellations. So according to the position where the sun is, so that's called as particular Sankranti. Like you see, there is Karka. So when the sun moves from Simha Rashi to Karka Rashi, it's called as Karka Sankranti, which comes after 6 months, where Dakshinayana starts. There's Karka Sankranti, Mithuna Sankranti, Vrishava Sankranti, Mesha Sankranti, Meena Sankranti, Kumbha Sankranti, and Makara Sankranti. See here? So when the sun moves from Kumbha Rashi into Makara Rashi, it's called as Makara Sankranti. Then Dhanu Sankranti, Vrishika Sankranti, Tula Sankranti, Kanya Sankranti, Simha Sankranti, and again comes back to Karka Sankranti. So the sun, the relative motion goes through these things. So the sun also, if you carefully observe, it appears to go north for 6 months and appears to go south 6 months. So the sun is not going in only one particular path. It's changing its path slowly. So for 6 months it goes up, and for 6 months it comes down. So that movement of the sun is called Uttara Ayana or Dakshina Ayana. Ayana means to move. Like Ramayana. Ayana means movement of Lord Rama. That's called Ramayana. So similarly, the movement of the sun is called Ayana, Uttara Ayana. So when it goes towards north, relative. So today, the sun starts moving from south towards the north. For 6 months, it goes up, and then for 6 months, it comes down. So that's called Dakshina Ayana. So Uttarayana is considered to be more auspicious time and auspicious path. So generally, those who leave the world in the path of Uttarayana, they go to a higher destination and they'll not come back again. But those who go in the path of Dakshinayana, they again return back to this material world. So they'll go up to Soma and then again return back. So there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. I'll show you that verse. That's a verse from 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells about different kinds of path. One path goes to liberation, another path goes to bondage. This is the verse. Yeah, see here. अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयात गच्छन्ति ब्रह्मविदो जनाः. So I request people to kindly mute yourself so that you can have no disturbance. Okay. So Agni, those who live with the path of light, fire, light, day, and Shukla Paksha, Shanamasa Uttarayanam, the 6 months of Uttarayana, Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Jana. So they'll enter into Brahman. That's what he says. Krishna says. And others, Dhumo Ratri Tata Krishna, those who leave the body through the path of smoke, darkness, Krishna Pakshaha, Shanmasa Dakshinayanam, in the 6 months of Dakshinayana, Jyoti, they'll go up to Chandraloka, Yogi Prapya Nivartate, they'll go up to Chandraloka and again come back down. So that's what is described here. So that's why Uttarayana is considered to be auspicious. So that's why Bhishma Dev was waiting for this Uttarayana to come. I'll discuss more about this soon. But a devotee of Krishna doesn't have to worry whether Uttarayana or Dakshinayana, anytime he can live. Shukle Krishne Gati Hete Jagata Shashvate Mate. Okay. Ekaya Ayati Anavrityam Anyaya Vartate Punaha. By one path, one goes to Brahman, but other path, one comes back again. But a devotee doesn't have to worry about this. Whichever time he lives, he goes back to spiritual world. So Bhishma Dev also could have gone back to spiritual world any time, but he was specifically waiting for Krishna to come. So that's why Krishna is also called the protector of Uttara's womb. So his name is also Uttarayana. So he was waiting for Krishna to come. So in that sense, he was waiting for Uttarayana, the protector of Uttara's womb. So till now I explained what is Sankramana or movement of the sun, what is Makara Sankranti, and what is Uttarayana. Okay, is it clear? So let's get into some pastimes which happened on this day. So on this day, it is said that Ganga meets Samudra. Ganga meets Sagar. So Ganga Sagar Mela also happens on this day. And many of you know this story. It is there in the Puranas. Long ago, there was a king called Maharaj Sagara. This Sagara Maharaj, he had 60,000 sons. So they were doing a great yajna. But what happened? They were doing a Ashwamedha yajna, and the Ashwa, the horse, which was supposed to be sacrificed in that yajna, it was taken away. It was stolen. And he was very upset. Where is the horse? Where is the horse? So then he was searching. So then he sent his sons, 60,000 sons. So 60,000 sons, they went searching. They went all over the earth. They could not find anywhere. And then finally, Sagar said, dig into the earth. Maybe somewhere the horse will be there. They started digging the earth and they went up to Patala Loka. And there they saw one divine personality sitting in Tapasya, and in nearby there was a horse which was tied up. So then they thought, hey, this is the culprit. He has stolen our horse. So let's kill him. So they went to attack and kill him. But that was great personality. So because of their animosity, envy towards this personality, they died. And that Rishi didn't do anything. His name was Kapila. So Kapila Muni was simply sitting peacefully and doing meditation. And they, because they offended Kapila, they died. 60,000 of them, they died. And then Sagara was wondering, what happened to our sons? What happened to our sons? Then he sent somebody to check what happened, and they saw all the 60,000 are dead. What to do now? So then there the solution was given. I think Garuda gives a solution saying that if Ganga can come and touch their ashes, then they will get liberated. So Sagar Maharaj, he tries to do tapasya to get Ganga, but not possible. Then his son Dilipa tries, still could not. So many Amshuman, so many kings, they try, generations they try, but still they could not get Ganga to earth. They could not convince. Their tapasya was not sufficient. But later on, a great king came, and his name was Bhagiratha. So Bhagiratha did wonderful tapasya, great tapasya, and pleased Ganga Devi. And Ganga Devi said, okay, I'm very happy with you. I can come to earth, but I have a condition. I have a problem. What is that? The problem is my force will be so much that earth will not be able to hold my force. It will be very forceful. So I need somebody to hold my force. So otherwise earth will get dislocated. So then they are wondering, who will be able to hold this? Actually, Ganga was there in the heavens, but she was not coming to the earth. So this Ganga Devi, then Bhagiratha, he does tapasya to Lord Shiva. Shiva is extremely powerful. So he does tapasya and Shiva agrees. Shiva agrees to hold the force of Ganga, and then Ganga descends. And when Ganga is descending down, she sees Lord Shiva, and Shiva generally is in a very unique kind of a dress. He's a great personality, but his dressing, sometimes he just wears a tiger skin, sometimes nothing, but he puts bhasma on his body. So she felt a little not comfortable touching Lord Shiva. So then Shiva gets offended. You're offending me. So Shiva says, I will capture you, I'll not release you. So Shiva captured Ganga on his jata, in his jata, and he was not releasing. Another problem. Bhagirath, with great effort, finally he is bringing Ganga down, but actually the plan was foiled. Then again he has to do tapasya. When he did tapasya, then Lord Shiva got pleased. Then he said, okay, I'll release. So from the top of the head, again Ganga was released. So that's the photo I was showing you before. So Ganga Devi is here. And again from Shiva's jata, she comes down and she starts flowing. Okay. So Ganga is very, very auspicious river. She is nothing but Charanamrit of the Lord. Padanaka Neera Janita Jana Pavana. Chalayasi Vikramane Bali Madbhuta Vamana. Padanaka Neera Janita Jana Pavana. Keshava Dhrita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. So there's a beautiful sloka which says that from the Lord's lotus feet, Padanaka Neera Janita Jana Pavana. So when Lord Vamana came to Bali Maharaj, Bali Chakravarti, at that time Bali Maharaj asked for a benediction. Then Vamana asked for 3 steps of land. So it's a long story, but cutting it short, Vamana put the first step, covered the entire earth. Second step covered entire heavens. Nothing was remaining. Everything was covered. Everything belonged to Vamana now. Then he said, Bali Maharaj, where to put the third step? Then he put the third step on the head of Bali Maharaj. So when Vaman they had taken the second step, his thumb pierced the covering of the universe. Universe is like a football, and we are there in between the football. There are many planetary systems, 14 planetary systems. So when Lord Vamana lifted his leg and his thumb pierced the portion of the universe, layer of the universe, from there came Viraja river, water of the Karana, the Kshay, Karana ocean. So when they came down, that washed the lotus feet of the Lord and then came down to heavens. So when it is coming to heavens, that's called as Akasha Ganga. She's flowing through the sky. And then when she comes down, she's also called by the name Alakananda. And she's also called by the name Ganga, or she's also called by the name Bhagirathi. And then many names are there. Another name which comes is Jahnavi. So when Lord Shiva's from Jata of Lord Shiva, she flowed down. So at that time, Bhagiratha was making the path for Ganga with his Ratha, and then she was following the path. So on one occasion, Bhagiratha passed through the ashram of one sage called Janu Rishi. So when she went through that area, she flooded the ashram of Janu Rishi. Then he became upset. You're flooding my ashram, so I'll drink you. So he drank the entire Ganga and swallowed the entire Ganga. And Bhagiratha looked back and saw, there is no Ganga. Where is Ganga? So then he again begged at the feet of Janu Rishi, please release her. I have to deliver my forefathers, 60,000 of them. They are stuck up. They have to be liberated. Please release. So then being pleased with Bhagiratha's prayers, he released again. So I think I heard from the years he released. And then Ganga continued her flow. She went on and on, flowing towards Sagar. So she starts from actually the layer of the universe, comes through the Akasha Marga to heavens. From heavens, she comes down to other planetary systems, finally comes to Meru Parvata. From Meru Parvata, she divides, and one portion divides into 4 parts. Then one part comes to our Bharatavarsha, and that is called as Alakananda. Then she's called Ganga. Then she meets, then when she came from Janu Rishi's ears, she's called Jahnavi. And then when she meets Ganga, so that place where Ganga meets Sagar, that's called as Ganga Sagar Mela. It is said that from there, she goes down to the lower planetary systems and ultimately reaches the place where the ashes of the 60,000 suns of Sagar Maharaj were there. So then when they touch the holy waters of Ganga, all of them become liberated and they get delivered. So Ganga is very, very auspicious. So that's why it is said that when person dies, the hasti or the ashes, they are taken and put in Ganga, because by the touch of Ganga, the person will get purified. So she is so powerful. So then it's also said we can learn many lessons from Ganga. I'll just tell one lesson. Kunti Maharani says this. She says that Gange Vogham Udanvati. She says that just like Ganga flows towards the ocean uninterrupted, even if many obstacles come on the path, she continues her flow, unstoppable. Even if big mountains come, do you think she's going to stop because big mountain is there in front? No, she takes a path and goes. So similarly, a devotee also should be like Ganga, always flowing towards Krishna. No matter obstacles come, problems come, crises come in life, we should not stop. We should take a detour. Suppose you are going and then the crisis comes, like obstacle, take a detour and go. Like that. So we should be knowing how to flow like Ganga towards Krishna. So that's why she's telling, Twai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate sakritarati mudvahata dadha gange vogham udanvati. Oh my Lord, let my mind flow towards you, just like Ganga floats towards the Sagar. So that's what we can learn from Ganga Sagar Mela. And it is said that today thousands and thousands of pilgrims, they visit this place and take bath to get purified. Okay. So Ganga is very purifying, and generally in homes and all, we use Ganga Jal to purify the place, to do Archamana and purify our consciousness. We use Ganga Jal, very auspicious. So that is the third point which I wanted to say. And the fourth point is, today is also the day when Bhishma Deva left his body. He passed away on this day. So those who are attending our Mahabharata series, you'll know that Duryodhana and party, and then Pandavas, they had a fight, and they were big battle ensued. And Bhishma Deva was one of the great commanders in the army. And he was not only the great commander, but he was also a great devotee of the Lord. He is one of the Mahajans. There are 12 Mahajanas, and Bhishma is one of the 12 Mahajanas. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumaro Kapilo Manuhum Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balirvayasakirvayam. These are the 12 Mahajanas. So these 12 Mahajanas are the authorities in Krishna Bhakti. When somebody does Bhakti, we should learn from them. If you have to do Bhakti, then we have to learn from them how to do Bhakti. That's what these Mahajanas teach. So Bhishma is also one such Mahajana, but mainly he is misunderstood. We should really understand who is Bhishma. Why people misunderstand Bhishma? They think that Bhishma fought on the side of Kauravas. He should have fought on the side of Pandavas. Why did he take side of Adharma? Actually, Bhishma is a devotee. He would have surely come to the side of Pandavas. Why did he go on the side of Kauravas? Because he knows the heart of Krishna. Krishna wanted to use Bhishma as a tool to teach the whole world a lesson. Just like in homes also, sometimes when a mother-in-law wants to correct daughter-in-law, she chastises her daughter and indirectly corrects the daughter-in-law, right? अगर बहू को करेक्ट करना है तो सास अपनी बेटी को chastise करती है, right? So similarly, when Krishna wants to teach whole world a lesson, what he does, he uses his devotee, who are very strong, whose heart is like gold. Even if you put them in difficulty, they will not budge an inch. So he uses them to teach us a lesson. So Krishna is using Bhishma to teach us a lesson. What is the lesson? Let's see today. Bhishma Dev fought on the side of Kauravas. People misunderstood him. Means what? A devotee of the Lord, even if he is misunderstood, he is ready to follow the will of the Lord. That is surrender. Whole world may misunderstand me. And Munchant Grahnantva, Durvadham Parighoshyantu Manija Vamshe Kalankostva. They may say that you are such a kalank, you are such a bad person. But if it is the will of Krishna, I will do it. Another lesson. Krishna wanted to enjoy pleasure of fighting, and he cannot fight with chota mota people. He fights only with top people. And who are the top people? Devotees of Krishna. So Krishna wanted to enjoy the rasa of fighting. So he told Bhishma, you be on that side, you fight with me. I'll enjoy fighting with you. And Bhishma, in the battle of Kurukshetra, when he was in front of Krishna, he was shooting arrows at Krishna. Such arrows, iron shafts piercing the body of Krishna. And you know how Krishna was feeling? When he was shooting arrows, Krishna was feeling as if somebody is throwing some soft rose petals at him. Just like when we in puja room, we offer soft rose petals, soft maligehu, jasmine buds, and chameli or uh, so many soft flowers are there, lotuses are there. So when you throw at somebody, you don't feel any pain. Krishna loves when you offer him flowers. Similarly, here when Bhishma was shooting arrows at Krishna, Krishna is feeling as if Bhishma is throwing some flowers at him. But externally, it was appearing that blood is flowing from Krishna's body and they're angry at each other. But actually, there's an exchange of divine love which is happening on the battle of Kurukshetra. So Bhishma, although misunderstood, to give pleasure to Krishna, he fought on the side of Kauravas. And another lesson, third lesson, right? What is the third lesson? Bhishma had taken a pratigna that tomorrow I'll kill all the 5 Pandavas. And he had invested all his power in 5 arrows. And then Krishna, he's Antaryami, he knows everything. So he told Arjuna, come here, go to Duryodhana and get those 5 arrows. And when Arjuna went to Duryodhana and asked, give me those 5 arrows, Duryodhana shocked, how do you know that I have these 5 arrows? Because Duryodhana had taken the 5 arrows from Bhishma and kept it with him. So then Duryodhana understands, this must be Krishna. Otherwise, how will they come to know that arrows are with me? And next day morning, when Bhishma comes to know that my arrows are stolen, he becomes angry, transcendently angry. He says, today I will teach the lesson. I'll fight so fiercely that Arjuna will die or Krishna will be forced to break his vow. Krishna had taken a vow that I'll never fight in the battle. I'll never lift a weapon. He'll be forced to do it. And Krishna also liked the challenge. Let's do it. So then at one point of time, Bhishma and Arjuna are face to face and Krishna was riding the chariot. Bhishma was shooting so many arrows that Arjuna was in a shower of arrows. He was trying to counter them, but at one point of time, he could not. So many arrows were coming at him that he lost all hope. And he was about to die. At that time, Krishna says, I have to protect my devotee. Arjuna is in danger, and I have promised in Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhakta Pranashati, Kaunteya Pratijanihi, Name Bhakta Pranashati. I have made a vow that my devotee will never perish. So then he immediately jumped from his ratha. Then he took a weapon in his hand. It was not a weapon, it was a wheel of the rath. He lifted the rath and then he chased at Bhishma. And then when Bhishma saw Krishna chasing at him, he smiled and he said, this is the form I wanted to look at. Then he kept his bows and arrows aside and he stood pranam to Krishna. And he said, I was waiting for this scene. I want to see this scene. I have to meditate on this scene. You lifting this wheel of the Rathanga Pani. And then Arjuna feels anxious. Krishna, you have taken a vow that you will never lift a weapon. Please don't break your vow for my sake. He jumped from the rath and caught hold of Bhishma's legs. And he started to put brake, but he could not. He was being dragged by Bhishma. And finally, Bhishma stopped. And that's the time when the whole battle stopped, witnessing the scene of Krishna and Bhishma face to face with each other. So the third lesson is Krishna always protects his devotee. Now, on the next day, there was a fight, and then Bhishma was shot with so many arrows, and Bhishma fell. So Bhishma fell, but he did not die because he had Ichha Mrityu. So the 10th day of the Mahabharata, means 10th day after Gita Jayanti. So he fell, Bhishma fell. And he was waiting. So this year Gita Jayanti was 25th of right? December. So, and maybe like 10 days, you can say, maybe like 5th of January, Bhishma Dev fell. And battle went on for a long time. And then Makar Sankranti. So from Gita Jayanti, from the 10th day of Mahabharata battle up to Sankranti, he was lying on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So after the Pandavas won, the Pandavas became the kings, Yudhishthira became the king, and they were enjoying. But actually, Yudhishthira in the heart was very much pained. I am the cause of destruction of all these empires. I'm feeling so bad. I made so many women cry, and so many men are killed now. I'm the cause, I'm the culprit. He was feeling very bad. Krishna tried to convince him, no, it's not your fault. It's the will of destiny. They are all sinful people. They are supposed to die. So it's not your fault. It's Duryodhana's fault. But Yudhishthira was not feeling comfortable. He said, no, it's my fault. Vyasadeva came to convince, but still he was feeling it's my fault. So like this, he was feeling very bad. And then finally, Krishna said, there's one person in this world who can convince you. That's Bhishma. Bhishma till now has been misunderstood by everybody. People don't know who is Bhishma. Today, I'll glorify Bhishma. Let's go to Bhishma. By witnessing the speech of Bhishma, they will understand what kind of devotee is Bhishma. So Krishna told everybody, dress yourself. Pandavas, dress yourself with nice silk garments and golden ornaments and golden helmets and a golden rath and come to Bhishma. It was Bhishma's desire that he wanted to see you rich. He wanted to see you like kings. So he'll be very happy seeing you like this. Let's go. So then all of them come and they surround Bhishma and sit around Bhishma. So this is the scene. So Bhishma Dev is surrounded by all the Pandavas and Krishna also. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, he asks questions to Bhishma. What is my duty? What is the duty of a king? What are the duties of a lady? What are the duties of common people? So many, Stri Dharma, Raja Dharma, all those things they were asked. And then even Yudhishthira Maharaj asked, Kim ekam daivatam loke kim vapekam parayanam. Who is the topmost person in this world? To whom I should surrender? Whom I should worship? Whose name I should chant? By chanting whose names I'll get fully purified. Please tell me all these things. So then Bhishma Dev, lying on the bed of arrows, he speaks entire Vishnu Sahasranama. Now, can anyone of you here, if one, just a small experiment, if one needle pierces your feet, it's so painful. And with the needle in your feet, can you recite some slokas? Is it possible? Or, or if you have 10 needles in your feet and you're told, no, now recite verses of Bhagavad Gita, is it possible? Right? How many of you say it's not possible? Okay, Yamaraj Mata is telling, no, Manjesh, no, Nishal, no. So painful. Whole attention goes to the pain. What to speak of composing verses? Now, Bhishma Dev, from neck up to the feet, he was filled with arrows everywhere. He was pierced in his body with all the arrows. So it is. So at that time, Bhishma Dev is reciting Vishnu Sahasranama. Amazing. And who were witnessing that? Sages from all parts of the universe had come. Vyasadeva, Gautama, Vishwamitra, Vashishta, Narada, so many, you name them and they were there, surrounded by great sages. Bhishma Dev speaking Vishnu Sahasranama and glories of Krishna, he leaves. And also he glorifies Krishna and he focuses his mind fully on Krishna. Because whatever you remember at the time of death, that's what you attain. So Bhishma Dev got the darshan of Krishna. And he was looking at the beauty of Krishna and then he left his body. There's a beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam where Bhishma Dev is meditating on all the pastimes of Krishna. And then he comes to the scene where Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna as Partha Sarathi, and his face is covered by dust from the hoofs dust raised from the hoofs of the horses, and there is sweat, perspiration on his body. And then Krishna is looking very, very attractive. And Bhishma is looking at this scene because he is in Virya Rasa. Bhishma is in the Rasa of Virya, fighting with Krishna. So he's meditating on this form. This is his form which he wants to always see. Krishna on the Rath of Arjuna, and in seeing that scene, he's going to ecstasy, and he's telling, Tribhuvana Kamanam Tamala Varnam Ravikara Gauravarambaram Dadane Vapuralaka Kulavratananabjam Vijaya Sakhera Tirastu Menavadya. Bhishma is telling, Tribhuvana Kamanam, one who is most beautiful in all three worlds. Tamala Varnam, his bodily color is like the color of a Tamala Vriksha. Ravikara Gauravarambaram Dadane, and his body, his clothes are like the shining rising sun. Ravikara Gauravarambaram, Gaura means golden color. Ambaram Dadane. Vapur Alaka Kulavratana Najam, and his body is also covered with sandalwood. Alaka Kulavratana Najam. Vijaya Sakhi Ratirastu Menavadya. Hey, friend of Arjuna, Vijaya Sakha. Vijaya Sakhe, Ratirastu me. Let me have attraction to this form of yours. Anavadya, uninterrupted attention. Let it be on Krishna's form. So seeing this form of Krishna, Bhishma Dev meditating on this form of Krishna today, when the sun starts going towards north, Uttarayana, he decided to quit his body. So he fully focused on Krishna in front of him. He left his body and went to his destination, wherever Krishna wants him to go. So that's what happened on this day. So Bhishma Pitama, we can learn how even in the most toughest time, one can be Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada also in the last days, he was able to remember Krishna uninterruptedly because he was beyond bodily consciousness. So more we rise above bodily consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, we can remember Krishna at the time of death. Otherwise, we'll remember the pain of the death, not Krishna. So this is what happened today. And another incident which happened today is 500 years ago, about 500 years ago, maybe exactly 521 years ago, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. So Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna, Radha Krishna, Eka Atma Dui Dehadari, Anyonya Vilase Rasa Aswadana Kuri. So Radha and Krishna, they combine together to form Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna, but in the color and the mood of Srimati Radharani. Radha Bhavadyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. So they're having, he's having Radha Bhava and Dyuti, the complexion. Naumi Krishna Swarupam, he's Krishna himself. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in West Bengal, Navadvip, for establishing the Yuga Dharma for this age, which is Hare Krishna Mantra, Nama Sankirtana. So he inaugurated Nama Sankirtan in Bengal, West Bengal, and he predicted that the holy name will be spread all over the world. Every town and village. Pritaviti Achiyata Nagaradigram Sarvattar Prachar Hoikangoranam. In every town and village, the holy name will be chanted. That's what he predicted. And it so happened that Srila Prabhupada fulfilled this prophecy. So Lord Chaitanya also, he was, in his childhood, he was not exhibiting the pastimes of a devotee, but in the later part of his life, in his youth, he met his guru, and after taking initiation from his guru, he started celebrating the Sankirtana movement. But some people, especially those who were Sanskrit scholars, Vidwans, they were not able to accept Sankirtan. They were thinking we should sit and chant and do yajnas and chant Vedic mantras and do yajnas and pujas and karma kandas. Only then you will attain success. How can you just by chanting Hare Krishna, you can attain success? So they were making jokes. So Lord Chaitanya, some people are even considering Lord Chaitanya to be very sentimental. He just chants and dances. Generally, Hare Krishna devotees, ISKCON devotees also chant and we dance in ecstasy. And some people may consider they're sentimental. No, we're not sentimental. We have the highest philosophy, the best philosophy. So when we understand what we have got, the best philosophy, then we can see that uh, Lord Chaitanya has taught us. We read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll understand what kind of philosophy we have. But some people take it casually. So that's why Lord Chaitanya said, to make them convinced about this process, I will take sannyas. Because when I take sannyas, they'll have to offer respects to me, and when they offer respect, their hearts will open up. And when their hearts open up, then I'll tell them, please chant Hare Krishna. So that is the reason why Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas. त्यक्त्वा सुदुस्त्यज्य सुरईप्सितराज्य लक्ष्मी धर्मिष्ठार्यवचसा यदगादरण्यम् मायामृगं दयितमीप्सितमन्वधावद्वन्दे महापुरुषते चरणारविन्दम्. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto it is said that the Lord Chaitanya took sannyas because he left his home, beautiful wife, and went to the forest of this material world for the sake of preaching. Maya mrigam daitam ipsitam anvadhavat. Those who are running behind Maya, he's catching them and telling, turn towards Krishna. So that is the way Lord Chaitanya wanted to preach Krishna consciousness. So he left home, and then he went to Jagannath Puri because mother requested, anyway you're taking sannyas, you'll not come back home. So better stay in Jagannath Puri. At least I can get news about you. If you go to Vrindavan, then I cannot get any news about you. So stay in Puri. So he stayed in Jagannath Puri for 18 years. And then Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes in Jagannath Puri. So he is teaching us the highest love of the gopis to all of us. The way the gopis loved Krishna in the mode of spontaneous love. So that is the another event which happened today. So yesterday, Lord Chaitanya meets his confidential devotees, Chandrasekhar Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, and selected 2-3 people, Advaita Acharya, and he tells them that tomorrow morning, means today morning, I'm going to take sannyas. So late in the night, he spends time with his mother, and early morning, without telling anybody, he just leaves home and goes to the other side of Ganga and meets his guru called Keshav Bharati. Then he takes the dress of a sannyasi, the saffron robes, and then he, of course, devotees are very pained seeing that Lord Chaitanya has cut his hair, beautiful hair, and then he has left home. But Lord Chaitanya says, he gives them so much of love and says that I'm always for you, I'm always with you, but I have to do my duty. I have to preach this Krishna consciousness. So for this sake, I'm taking sannyas. So then Lord Chaitanya visits Advaita Acharya's home, spends some time, and then finally he goes to Jagannath Puri. So Lord Chaitanya, because of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, today we are getting this Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So generally, why people take sannyas? They don't take sannyas because life has become a burden or life is now meaningless. Actually, they take sannyas because they want to do a great service to the society. That's why some people take up sannyas. So they are leaving small family to embrace a huge family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So when a person takes sannyas, the whole world becomes his family, and everybody becomes his child. And then he preaches Krishna consciousness to everybody. So that is the reason Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. So in brief, what we discussed today is 5 points. What is Sankranti? What is Uttarayana? What is Ganga Sagar Mela? Bhishma Dev's disappearance, and Lord Chaitanya's sannyasa ceremony. So these 5 incidences happened here on this day of Sankranti. So whenever you meet somebody and they ask what is Sankranti, you can tell these 5 events. Then you'll be able to. When we know these events, then we can celebrate the day with better consciousness. Okay, so similarly, we can try to know the meanings of other festivals which are going to come soon. Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So there is a question here that every year it comes on 14 January, but our all festivals are according to Indian calendar. Then why Makar Sankranti? Yeah, so actually there is a solar calendar and lunar calendar. According to solar calendar, generally the Sankramana comes in the same date, 14th of January or 15th of January, slight difference. But the lunar calendar slightly varies. because some additional months get added and then there's a little change of the dates also. But generally Makar Sankranti, thus Uttarayana comes at this time. So for more details, you can ask our Anant Prabhu, he is expert in this topic. He can explain more details about this topic. Okay, so thank you very much everybody for joining today. So wish you happy Makar Sankranti and may Lord bless you with all auspiciousness. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.